Oh, it's job search sites.
That's not what we're referring to.
Being like executive committee meeting is live stream.
Yeah, it has to be.
Interesting. So why have an executive committee? Can't really talk about anything that you would normally talk about. in a
Well, you can
regular-
go into closed session and you can talk about personnel
We
matters.
did that last time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I asked her to ensure that we have the language.
All right.
Think so?
Are we good?
We're on YouTube.
All right. Welcome, everybody. I don't have a gavel. Me, burner. All right, did everybody have a chance to review the minutes? I reviewed them just now as well. I did not see anything that I thought needed changing, but I did bring up a couple questions I want to ask. But anybody have any edits to the minutes? Anybody want to move that we approve the minutes?
I mean,
Well,
minutes.
wait,
Roberta?
I don't know if we wanted to talk about it now or later, but that whole paragraph on the audit discussion is a bit incomplete and misleading. So I don't know if we want to talk about it now or later, but
Roberta,
more
I'm happy to
discussion.
talk about it right after we approve the minutes, unless you want to change something in the minutes. If you think that what's in the minutes is misleading, do you want to make edits to the minutes? But
depends on the end of the conversation, because I found out through our legal counsel that we are supposed to be informed when these periodic audits are done, and that was not happening. She suggested that we contact the main auditor and ask why. So it, that wording kind of says everything's okay, but there's still a question mark there for me. So if I'm the only one that's worried, that's fine, and we can move on.
So it says staff explain, it doesn't talk about telling us, it says, you brought it up, staff explained that at the state level, the auditing process is continuous and there are no annual financial audits. Is that wrong or right?
While there may not be annual audits, there are periodic audits. So it's not annually. I think it's every 2 or 3 years or something. I don't remember the exact amount, but the last one did happen when I was treasurer. So that's kind of why I'm still on it.
So should we add a sentence that says, even though there are no financial audits, there are periodic non-financial audits? Would that
Yes.
help?
Well, that doesn't represent what happened at the meeting, though. That's sort of what the minutes are for. We can clarify it in a future meeting.
Yeah.
I just don't know that we want to. The clarification came after the meeting, not during the meeting.
All right, so let's approve the minutes and then have a discussion about audits. How about that, Roberto?
That's fine.
Because that's what the staff said, even if it wasn't 100% correct.
Okay, does anybody want to move to approve the minutes?
Time to that we approved that.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, aye. Aye, aye.
Aye.
Roberto, are you and I?
Abstain.
Okay, all right, so the minutes are approved. All right, let's talk about audits. You have the floor, Roberto.
Well, that was basically it. I mean, I don't know how deep we want to get into it, but we were supposed to be involved. There's a couple of things that came up that said was a repeat. So,
So there are, just to make sure I understand, the minutes say they're not annual financial audits, but you're saying you learned that there are periodic audits. I think we knew there were periodic audits. But the issue is that we, the board, are not informed of them. Is that what you're saying, Roberto?
correct. We are supposed to be, and we were not. So
Okay. And is that true as far as you recollect, that the board isn't informed when there's an audit? I know I've talked to you about audits before.
I think it's been done maybe more casually than obviously Roberta would be, and I think it would be good best practices to go ahead and solidify that, so we can basically just have that have it in place that when we receive a full-on audit, which, you know, again, I'm not trying to hedge here, but it's not like we get a full-on financial audit from Mallard and Mallard CPA here for the foundation as a nonprofit. Right? The state one does not really look at finances, you know, looking to make sure that enough money went to SWAM vendors or, you know, whatever. What they're looking at is making sure, like, one of the last things that I know that we changed was when we sign off, two things, when we sign off on credit card purchases, there was never a date line next to my signature. They wanted a date line added to it. The second thing was that if somebody has a state credit card for purchase and does not spend anything in a month, I still have to review that record, sign and date it. So that's the kind of stuff that the audit primarily focuses on. And what the idea of that we were kind of chronically audited financially. If there's any kind of suspicion any time of the year that the money's going someplace where it shouldn't, or it's going against policy, Jonathan gets a phone call.
Are you worried about financial audits, the non-financial audits, or both, Roberto?
It's more procedural. I mean, it's not that I'm worried that someone's stealing money or whatever, but if there's a couple of red marks on the record as far as the state is concerned, and the accounting and auditing people have, you know, dings on the record, and we don't know about those dings, then that's bad, right? Because that's part of our responsibility. So this is entirely a procedural discussion. I'm not worried that anybody's stealing money or, you know, whatever. It's if there's a bad report card somewhere.
Yep.
And we don't know about it, then that's bad, because we're supposed to know about it.
So there is a publication of that, of any audit is online. You can see all of the audit reports going back several years. And as you guys were talking about, one of them was related to segregation duties, one was internal controls. It's basically controls in segregation of duties is the issues. And then they have findings, and then they ask, how are you going to fix the findings?
Right.
And then there are the responses from Joe and his team against that, which are basically saying this is what happened. But I think what's probably missing is the circling back to say, okay, we fixed all the things they said, or we did not fix them because we didn't have enough staff, or we didn't. So, and then as a board, we could say, oh, if the issue is you can't fix it because of staff, then we have to
Right.
find a way to mitigate that audit
Right.
point. I mean, that's the process.
So Joe, what do we need to do to make sure that we are informed about them going forward?
So I just want to interject. I think we might be getting informed. I'm looking back through my files and we have this report, ADA Auditor of Public Accounts Review on June 8th, 2020, and it was in the executive committee packet from 2 years ago at the May meeting. So it just might be that we're not remembering that we're getting these
And
updates.
I don't think that there is a policy in place that I'm aware of. I could go back through and see if I'm mistaken, and if there
Policy
is.
to share them with us.
Yeah, like we don't have, we will share with the Board of Trustees within 3 business days or whatever of receiving an audit, which we could easily do because I think we should. I know we have reported about audits many times in the past between Gloria Niblett and Jonathan being CFO.
We
But
should just
again,
have a formal policy in
yeah.
place.
I agree. I'm all about tightening things up. And of course, we are coming up for AM reaccreditation. It doesn't hurt to have something like that as a point that they can contest.
All right, so what do we need to do to adopt a formal policy?
We'll just vote on it next meeting.
You'll write one.
Yeah.
We'll put it on at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
as long as we don't already have one and I'm just forgetting. You
Okay,
know,
so
so
check.
I'll double
Yeah,
check.
well, part of the salient point is that the board directly is supposed to be informed, not that it comes through staff. I mean, that's how it happens in the real world.
Oh, I see. So it's like the state itself has to reach out to us as opposed to through Joe or someone else.
So in a corporate board environment,
Yeah.
generally what happens is the auditor report
Yeah.
to the board
Yeah.
rather than to the
Right.
CEO of the company.
Gotcha.
So I think that's his point.
So then really it's something where maybe we just need to ask if there is someone at the state that's responsible for coming to these museum boards or any other state agency board to make these presentations.
I mean, at
That's,
a
that
minimum,
was a suggestion from our legal counsel, yes.
at a minimum, then what we could do is just request that when an audit begins, they send 2 people here and they live here for a couple of weeks. That when that begins, that any correspondence, well, I don't.
No, you don't want to go that level.
No, any results that come out of that visit, go to the director, go to the CFO, and also go to the treasurer of the board.
Oh, that's simple.
Are we good, Roberto?
Yeah, that's SOP.
All right. The other, anybody else have anything on that item? All right, the other 2 things that came up for me in reading the last meeting minutes, and this may be in the packet for tomorrow, so I apologize if it already is. But we had talked about the Museum for All and how the Harvest Foundation was probably not an option, and we were going to look at Hooker Furnishings. I'm just wondering if that's progressed.
Yes, we now have funding from Hooker Furnishings as well as Carter Bank for that. So we do have funding, and the foundation board has volunteered to write a letter to the Harvest Foundation, not in any way asking for a reconsideration of their decision or anything like that. We may do a resubmittal, but at the same time too, that not a reconsideration of the original proposal, but in an attempt to inform them that
How will they take that?
I don't know. I mean, I think what most people do
Hey,
here is,
Harvest, you're wrong.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, they are.
We kind of already did that, didn't we? We inquired as to like what the reasoning was.
Yeah. Well, I went through, I sent them some stats and invited them to Reptile Festival. So am I the only person that's warm in here?
You're not the only one.
I hope I know how to word.
I guess your submittal to them would be judicious in its language.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's gonna.
Is my recollection correct that there's an overlap between the foundation board and the harvest board?
No,
Okay,
no, technically, yes, because Bill Kirby Senior, his son, Bill Kirby Junior, serves on the Harvest Board. So I guess. I don't know how to. Word
Just
it.
in case we want money from them in the future, I just think we should be judicious. That's all.
I think that was part of the discussion this afternoon too.
I figured, I know that people were pretty riled up about it, but still.
Yeah, well, some more so than others.
This was the one where we don't want to embarrass people by having them use.
Use EBT cards.
Yeah. The other item that was in the minutes, so it's a follow-up, is I had asked you to pull energy usage data from the buildings. Now that you have energy savings, your project's near completion. So do you have any early data about whether that project was a good idea, successful or not successful, or too early to tell? Or
I would say it's too early to tell. We just signed the project completion report 2 weeks ago, and we took a look at the preliminary data, and right now we think we need to do a fair apples to apples comparison. We have to let this run a while, right? So at the moment, though, we do have data, and it actually comes up on the exhibit screen down there, right? We have data now that shows that we are producing, I may adjust this by a couple of percent, a little less than what I originally anticipated. We do 35, on average, 3,500, was it kPa? No.
kilowatt hour?
Kilowatt hours. We do 3,500 kilowatt hours per day to run the building. We're generating about somewhere between 350 and 400 or something like that.
Same from your solar panel.
Well, yeah, it's a start, but I was expecting it to be more for one. And right now I'm looking at it and I'm kind of wondering, are we going to be able to reach that $100,000 savings that Siemens is on the hook for? So Siemens will be providing us with a full report and all that. So
If you don't reach the $100,000 savings, is there something with Siemens, or you just
Yes.
don't?
yeah, they are legally required to reimburse us. So they have already said that they're gonna be giving us somewhere between $6,000 and $9,000 because they were supposed to have the project done. It took them longer. They took responsibility and they're saying because of that, we were using more energy during that time period than we normally would have. So we already know we're gonna get a rebate, not a rebate.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna get something from them. What that looks like in the future. But I do think it needs to ride out. So we're comparing not what we're doing now today versus what we were doing when we had all these contractors in the building testing every
Right.
gizmo in the whole building.
Right.
So,
All right, well, I look forward to hearing more.
but the staff has taken your inquiry seriously and they're,
Yes.
yeah, well, we are too, you know, we want to make sure.
I'm not surprised by the roughly 10% from solar, unless you cover your whole roof in your parking lot, it would be hard to get enough solar. All right, does anybody else have any other follow-up items from the minutes? Okay. All right, so the chair's report. So overview of current and future officers. I think folks are probably aware that Roberto is going to step back from the executive committee, not the board, but the executive committee. And Mark is going to take over as vice chair. Of course, that has to be voted on at the meeting tomorrow, but that is the proposed slate of officers. So we have the nominating committee all set to announce that.
Melanie will be joining us online, but she's prepared to read the slate.
Does anybody have any questions about that? I want to welcome Mark to the executive committee. Sorry to see Roberto step down, but I completely understand having personal commitments. Okay, I think you guys know there were some issues, oh gosh, I don't know, 6 months ago or so with the folks who work on the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab, splitting their time between the museum and the lab and overlap and using museum email to do CHML business, et cetera. So Joe has drafted a policy that covers that. It has been reviewed by legal counsel. And the idea is that we will vote on it tomorrow. This will protect the museum, protect the employees, the Cultural Heritage Monitoring Lab. It's really just meant to clarify our relationship with CHML. Does anybody have any questions about the policy? I found a typo. I don't know if you want to see the typo. I had a question about one item, but other than that, anything? Okay, well, we'll be, sorry, Roberto, were you going to say something?
I just, as I read through the entire thing, I was reading points and it was just in the back of my mind, I'm going, this is one governmental agency who's having to somehow protect itself from another governmental agency as to how its employees are getting along. And I just, in the back of my mind, I'm going, isn't there all kinds of laws and statutes and policies already that cover all this kind of stuff? It's like, are we stating something that's supposed to be covered by law anyway? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, are we, I don't know.
Yeah, Roberto, if there was, like, when we had the Office of the State Inspector General investigation, the challenge is I had to sit here and explain that, hey, no, these guys do this kind of work. It's exactly what they do within the military, and we can only do this work with the military DoD connection as well as the corporate connections. And they just basically said it's black and white. There is state business and there is federal business. There is no in between, right? And so I'm trying to create that in between. And I don't know that there's another resource available, at least I'm unaware of a resource available to basically show that the work that CHML does, which has that deep relationship with the US military, is something that the board approves.
It may be overkill, Roberto. I just think it's necessary overkill based on our.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm agreeing. I'm totally wholeheartedly agreeing. It's just, I guess the art's prior front. more bureaucracy than we should need to get into. But if we got, I see nothing wrong with protecting ourselves. It just baffled me. So we can move on. I don't have any lingering thoughts. It just seems a lot of work for us to have to go through when people being in the military part-time has been happening for centuries. So
Yeah,
So be it.
I got caught flat-footed too, Roberto. And in fact, it wasn't too long before that quote unquote investigation that I specifically briefed the Secretary of Education with Hayden in tow about the work that we do, the relationship with DoD and everything, because I thought it was so unique. If it ever, and it does get national press sometimes, so I didn't want the governor to be asked questions about something the state does that he didn't know about. So anyway, it all seemed like everyone was gung ho about it, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
thought-
baffling.
yeah.
There's a sentence in here that I think is a little ambiguous, and so there's no way we can get with a lawyer and get it fixed before the meeting. Is there, Joe? I mean, is there?
Well, she was going to join us. Not that she's read that. Cindy is brand new to us.
I just hate to approve it with something. I'd like to just have it done.
Can I work with Hayden? I'm sure we can massage that to.
Nice, just get it done.
Did you say we finally have our own council again?
No,
Well,
Oh, okay.
well, we have another one,
we have another.
new one.
Yeah.
Does that mean we have a final one? I don't.
Now, the good thing is, that could potentially be helpful is that Cynthia is retired JAG officer. So she
Ooh.
gets what we're doing, as far as the CHML goes, so if more CHML stuff comes up, I think she's going to be a real resource for us.
Okay. All right, the next issue that I'm supposed to report on, I don't know anything about. So I think you're gonna have to do that because you and I didn't have a chance to catch up. Annual report submission fall 2023.
Yeah, well, that's something that kind of came out of strategic planning, but that involves the whole board. So in strategic planning, Roberto and Mark and myself and I think Brian was there or Jonathan. Yeah, was there. So we're going to beef up our annual report. So for one, we've decided as staff looking at the budget, there will be absolutely no problem going back to what we used to do before 2008, and that is to provide a printed professional annual report that we can send to stakeholders and uses something like a leave behind and so forth. So the staff right now have a
Why did we stop? Budget reasons?
budget. Yeah, basically, I think 2008, it was, we're not going to do this
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
And then we went to PDF when
Yeah.
that became readily available, and now we're ready to
Yeah.
kind of reprint it. So it's something like 8 or 10 pages. I can't remember, but we do have this template that it's going to look a lot like other annual reports that you find from nonprofits and so forth. We're going to show the board a draft, and you can pick and choose what content it will have. There will be a specific board message, and Roberto, said that he's going to help the board along to write a proper message. And then using some of Mark's formula, we're going to illustrate within the annual report where we'll have all the finances required by the state, but we'll also have a section that connects our strategic plan with the Code of Virginia and our budget.
Yeah.
Right. And then we think we can use that as kind of
As a stakeholder piece, yeah.
Yep, mhm. So we'll be submitting that in October.
Submitting that as draft to the board.
No, we'll have it submitted to you before the next board meeting.
So we'll review it over the summer and then we'll vote on
Let me look at the calendar. Yeah, if you want to vote on it or what the content is or what your part looks like, then you'll have to do it then, because we have to submit it to the governor's office in October. Normally what we do is we just put the stats up on the website and we send a emailed report to the governor's office, and we You know, but really, I mean, Roberto is right. It does specifically say that the board will submit an annual report to the governor's office.
So if there's gonna be a message from the board, I think the board needs to see it, have input on it, review it, and be able to vote.
Yes, so I sent Roberto some quick verbiage and we can, well, not verbiage, I think I sent Roberto a couple of points or something that we might be able to use. And then I guess we can kind of carry it forward from there.
So I think.
Yeah, Lisa, that was the direction of our conversation, that basically the message to the governor on our required report is the voice of the board. And, you know, the one place, if there's any stakes in the ground we want to ask for or, you know, talk about, that's the place for it. But the public report, quote unquote, is the fancy glossy, you know, thing we send to the world. It's the first one is ours. It's our word. It's our voice. It's what we're trying to tell, you know, the powers that be. But the other one is our public document. So to your
I'm
point,
sorry,
yes.
Roberto, are we talking, I'm lost now. Are we talking about two separate documents? I thought we were talking about now having a glossy document that used to be a non-glossy. Are we talking about two documents? A public one and a non-public one? I'm confused.
The annual report is not what we send the governor. Some of the verbiage that we use in the annual report may be what we send to the governor, but we don't send that glossy annual report to the state.
What are we sending to the governor? We sent them to the governor in the past?
Yes, so we just send a single message that shows our finances. Here's our expenditures and revenues, balanced budget. And that just goes into whatever.
What you see on the website.
Yeah,
It's what's on the website.
It's on the website.
So we used to have one report, now we're gonna have two?
Well, the annual report as a whole will be what we leave with our constituents, right?
We've always had two reports.
No, we always had one go to the governor's office every October.
That was the same as the one that's on our website.
Yes,
Okay, so in the past, we've had one report. It was a
Yes.
PDF, used to be a hard copy. Now we're talking about two reports.
well, when it was a hard copy, I don't know what the museum's saying, 'cause that was before my time.
Okay, all right, right now we have one report.
Yes, and it's as simple as it gets. We received an appropriation of X number of $1 million. We spent X number of $1 million.
Right.
We received X number of $1 million in revenues, and this is the bottom line.
Okay, so now we're gonna have two reports,
Mhm.
and the difference between the reports is what?
One is from the board, and one is from the financial side of the museum.
Yeah, it's pretty much. And the full color glossy one that we'll make hard copies of, will have brief synopses of some of the big news from the major aspects of museum operation, like the sciences, education programs, new exhibits, things along those lines.
It's a little more marketing than just purely information.
Yes.
Yes.
just that. You know, so,
And the glossy one will have no message from the board?
yes, it will have in the front cover, it will have a message from the board about the great things that you feel the museum does for the state of Virginia.
Is that the part going to the governor? Or a completely separate document?
Completely separate documents.
This doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Let me,
Why would we write two completely separate documents?
Because there's two different audiences.
It's two different ones, yeah.
Yeah.
One is the board telling the governor what we think about how things have gone.
We would tell the governor something different than what we would tell the public.
Just less.
Probably a lot
Just
less.
whatever's required.
And I think.
So would you send the governor like a letter and attach the public report?
well, we can send it to
Yes,
him, and we
we
will
will.
send it to him.
Yeah.
So all of our publications goes to a mailing list that, we've maintained for years.
Yeah.
And that includes all the elected officials, all the cabinet secretaries, the governor's office and everything like that. And so that will be kind of, as you say, sort of like a marketing piece, and all the major museums, do these things. You've seen it before for others, right? Again, the report that you see online is bare bones. It checks a box,
Are we still having the one online that's bare bones that checks a box?
I think we have to.
So we're gonna have three? One for the governor, one that's bare bones, and one that's glossy?
The one that's the bare bones one
The
that
bare bones one is part of what you do already. So I mean, it's
Yes.
not, that's not incremental.
No,
That's just your financial statement you already do for the board anyway.
yes,
Right,
it's
so-
it's our finances summarized, it goes
It's not special.
on our website, the same exact thing goes to the governor's box or whoever the contact is, right? And so that, again, checks a box. We have satisfied the needs of the governor. But we, through strategic planning, the idea is that if we broaden that statement in a true annual report, so you got a government annual report, and then you got the kind of nonprofit annual report,
And the thing you put on your website.
which
the
is the
text
governor's
box.
report, it's the same exact thing.
So now you're gonna have two reports, the governor's report, which includes the budget thing that's
We
already.
don't have to put it on the website. If we're doing a regular annual report that includes that information,
Okay,
we don't have to put that bare bones thing up on the website, where we can put our 2023-24, or sorry, 22-23 fiscal year annual report that will have the information that checks the box. It will have the cool things that were discovered by research and all the other great things the museum has done in the last year. But it will also have all those financials, not all those, it will have the pie chart showing the distribution of funds and how they were spent.
This is just an opportunity, instead of just doing what we had to
Yes,
do
I
before.
think that's a good way to look at it. And I think to your point, I think instead of having to have a third document, there could be a covering letter to the governor that says, and the board would like to communicate this.
yeah, dear governor.
But it's dear governor and committee
Priorities.
chairs, governor
Yeah,
committee
yeah,
chairs. So,
yeah.
Roberto, I think that's the spirit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going above and beyond our report card, basically to create a document that we can show stakeholders and foundations and grant people, all the wonderful things we do. But the statutory requirement of something from us is just bare bones. It's basically what you said. What's our message to the state along with the financials? So that, that's what, 2-3 paragraphs maybe?
At the most, probably.
Yeah, you can confuse me again. We're back to the bare bones thing. I
No,
hear
bare
bare
bones-
bones is on the website. We've got a glossy thing and we've got a message for the
Bare
governor.
bones is a financial statement. That's what's on the website. Only a financial statement. There's nothing else.
I get that,
Yeah.
but we don't want to just do that.
No, we don't.
So we're gonna do a glossy report that has a financial statement in it.
I would suppose that's.
Yeah, well, yes.
We should.
Okay, and then we're gonna have a message for the governor.
We should have a message for the governor. We should have a message, because that's where the charter point is,
Right, okay.
right?
So not 3 reports, not even 2 reports, the glossy report, and dear governor, here are the board's priorities, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Attached to the glossy
Correct,
report.
yes, correct,
A letter and a report.
Yes.
Not 3 reports.
correct.
I'm good with that. I think we need to present this to the board in a coherent way. Tomorrow.
Okay.
Maybe we need a slide on it or a 1-pager or something.
What I'm gonna do, I have to connect, and this is a new computer, so you'll have to bear with that. I've got a template. It doesn't, the verbiage in the section is nonsense, it's gibberish, right? But it has
Sections of the current report or the new report.
the new report that we are proposing to use for our stakeholders, as well as, we'll submit to all,
It's just a template.
it's a template.
Just tell folks, hey,
We're gonna do what we're
got
gonna
a
do.
report now, we're gonna make it much, much better.
Yeah.
It's gonna be printed, it's gonna be
And
glossy.
it's gonna be-
And we it's also gonna send a letter, a message to the governor with that report, saying what the board thinks.
Yes,
I think that simple is good
and
enough.
I'm gonna have
I'm
Ryan.
going to tomorrow and say that. I think it'd be very confusing otherwise.
That's simple.
Okay. And the check the box thing, we don't need to do anymore, because that's just double work.
Well, all it is, I'm sorry, I don't have the document
Don't worry.
right now.
That's-
So page 2 of that document, or 3 or whatever it is, it's got a couple of pie charts on it. That's exactly what we submit to the state, to some bureaucrat in the governor's office somewhere, right? So that's the box we check, right? We're including that in the annual report. It might be more colorful this time.
You can't just send them the annual report, you have to send them that check the box thing.
I'm not gonna not send it, now that,
So back to,
Well, not if it's one page of a PDF added in the report.
it's a fraction of the glossy.
okay. All right,
It's a bureaucracy thing. It's,
Mhm.
it's a day-to-day thing that the staff will handle. It's
it'd
what
be
we handle.
exactly the same as what's in the annual report, so it's not double work, except perhaps more colorful.
Sort of like, put
So
your,
you
put your
don't
federal
have
W-2
to-
with your state.
So you don't have to do things twice.
I'm extracting half of page 2 and submitting it to this inbox. The governor will never see it. The governor does not read this inbox.
760.
But some bureaucrat will send a report that says all 75 agencies in the state of Virginia have submitted their annual. report.
So a letter to the governor, a glossy report, and a perfunctory pie chart or whatever we have to put on the
We'll
website.
handle that. If the board approves the annual report, then our job will be to extract it. send
I
it
think
to
we
them.
have to, I do think we need to show them the content of what we're gonna submit to the governor,
Mhm.
but I don't think they have to approve the annual report.
I wouldn't
I
think
think we just tell them their report's gonna be better than it ever has been in the
so.
past.
Yeah, and we.
But I think the content the board is sending to the governor, I think they need to see it approved. Which I don't think should be a report, so we need 52 reports, it should be something that accompanies the big report.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for instance, in October, we will be putting in, for, the Early Childhood Learning Center, which we're kind of rebranding internally as the, Young Explorer Center or something like that. And so we're gonna put that in again, and it would be nice if that were included.
And anything.
And the
that's
letter.
Waynesboro.
Yeah,
Yeah, and anything related to Waynesboro.
So that goes with the board would like to advocate further for this. Yeah, and that's kind of
a
a.
letter from the
Yeah.
board, a letter from the board, hey, here's your annual report, which you'll never read. A 2-page letter that says, here are our priorities, we hope you support us.
Yes.
All right. Treasurer's report,
Okay, I guess I'll,
you said board was coming but late,
yeah,
should we move that to a different, should we just wait for him?
he should be here about any moment.
Let's just wait for him.
Okay.
Why don't you do your, executive?
All right, so, and I think this would be nice to be part of your report out to the board tomorrow.
I want
But,
to talk about the pavilion, I'm thrilled about the pavilion.
okay, well, we got that, and I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
We also have our diversity intern hired. So, her name is Savannah Brown. She's from Roanoke College, an English major, and will be working in marketing and exhibits. Yes. We decided not to make it specific to any kind of discipline, but the idea here is that people who come to this diversity internship, they'll have an opportunity to learn deeply about museum operations
Did marketing and communication, especially the work out.
and exhibits.
Thanks. Good,
So,
Savannah Brown,
yes.
it's right out of college.
So the pavilion we have under contract finally. Now prices are higher, right? And so we do have a pathway forward. I should say the staff have a pathway forward. We just got all our ducks in a row. We just had the foundation board meeting today, so we're going to meet in between meetings to find out the pleasures of the foundation board in terms of how we tackle the price increase, right? So we have 2 different plans in place that won't involve dipping into our appropriation or anything like that. So, and there's actually a good part of it from an accounting standpoint, because we have, I couldn't tell you offhand, 20 accounts in the foundation that were drawn down from different projects over the years. And the accountant says, you might want to think about closing some of those out or reappointing them to something else or something. And we just never really did it, so like, for instance, we have one that's got $20,000 and it's been sitting there since 2015 untouched. So we're putting together a roadmap for the foundation board to determine which way they want to go with assembling the funds necessary to finish out the costs. So we just got all the formalities done. We'll be reporting out once we know what the contractor's timeline is. So first thing they got to do is they're going to tear out the stairs and the concrete out there, and then they're going to do basically 2 projects. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's up to them. They either get to do one, then do the other, or they're going to do them simultaneously. So however they do it is fine, but
Timeline-ish.
from the time they start working, minimum of 3 months. So we're kind of putting our minds maybe about 5, if there's anybody really.
2024.
Yeah, realistically, so if it's 3 months and they get started.
Finish before the freeze, so.
Yeah, well,
Well, not if it goes into 24.
yeah, well, I mean, if they get started in July, it would be sometime between September and November.
With the structural piece.
Yes. And then if that's the case, we'll do a soft opening, and then have a nice springtime
Yeah,
celebration.
Yeah.
that is very exciting. That's been a long time.
And related, you've heard me talk about this before, but this is somewhat connected. It's opportunity. I'm putting together with the staff a proposal for our local historical society. So they have broke ground and are moving dirt today. I think. Well, I know they're working on it today. They have about a 10-month project to put a new wing on the old courthouse, which is a museum. And so you might recall that they asked for our help. and
That's
they-
one of the main things I said.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they want help with the exhibits. And so we had some informal discussion about what that
They
would look
want
like.
help or want help?
They want help and are willing to contract us. So the good thing is that we have dinosaur discoveries through January, and the next one that followed is also a year-long exhibit. So we have plenty of time where, Bethany, our new exhibits person, can be working on other things, but then spend an appreciable amount of time on this at an appropriate rate. And we feel this is a money-making opportunity that we can stockpile money in the foundation. You can transfer it over to O2 specifically for the update of the permanent exhibits, because if you walk through now, you're going to see there are proprietary, and this is, I don't understand, I've never heard of anything like this before, but I think this is what happens when you get the lowest bidder. In the exhibits, there are a lot of electronic gizmos that were installed that are unconventional. You can't just go out and buy a similar replacement at Best Buy or something, right? So those are things that just can't be replaced. We can't just simply be substituted. You have to do a full replacement. So with this money, we feel over the next year or so, we can help them out, get paid for it, reinvest that here, keep all the money local.
Bilingual, when you do new. or you
Yeah,
do
I
bilingual.
talked about it, of course.
Everything new should be bilingual.
All right. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Everything new should be bilingual.
Is it Pavilion? It's got a sponsor or name or?
Yes, the Gene S. Adams.
Oh, that's what I thought.
So, yeah, so the Adams, George and Gene, big fans of the museum for many years. Gene died and then George left a gift on her name.
I should remember that.
Yeah, and then there are some smaller sponsors, like in the $10,000 level, who, when we put up individual forest ecology two-dimensional exhibits out there, will put their name associated with that. And
I
then,
think it'd be great if you could say that everything is gonna be bilingual.
yeah,
At the
Absolutely.
meeting tomorrow.
okay.
I think that'd be good coming from you.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, we haven't really even started a decision on what exactly we're gonna replace and how.
So just
We've got a
policy,
few things, but
anything.
we haven't even gotten to that, but I think that's super. That is an
Just
opportunity.
while you're doing it, might as well do it right.
Okay. All right, request, let me give you a quick rundown of VMNH Waynesboro. Tom,
Tons of progress, except it's paused, right?
yeah, the state just hasn't moved the money from account A to account B. So we have some, but I do not want to get in a position, and the Waynesboro Advocacy Committee agreed with me, get in a position where we get far enough along and the company is like, hey, here's a bill, you're paying it. It's like, well, we're short, right? So we're gonna wait till we have them. Like, the good thing is the exhibit design firm is like, well, we can do some, I mean, I understand, but we can do some work and start to develop the intellectual content, and then we'll be ahead of the game when we re-engage. So that's what's going on there, but
Restaurants paused.
yes, exactly.
Getting projects.
And I think it's good. We've got the 100% exhibit design being finalized, and we'll share it with the full board. And really what it outlines is the major topics to be covered and kind of the flow of information. Now it's time to engage content experts, so people on our board, our curators, foundation board, university partners, and start to come up with really cool stories, and like you're saying, make everything viable. So,
That's the fun part, coming up with the stories.
oh, yeah, definitely.
Plenty of those.
We,
Best practice, everything, if you're starting doing new stuff, it should be bilingual, because it's not like you have to rip stuff out, right?
yeah, I
This
think
should
it's
be
hard.
best practice, everything bilingual.
Along the line, two things that are Museum Without Walls 2020 to 2025. Just please remember, we're 3 years into 5 years. I think we're in as good a position as we possibly be, actually farther along in some of the areas than I ever thought we'd be. The second thing is, I just received recently the first communique from ABM about the reaccreditation process. So we'll be submitting at the end of 2024 our report. So it's all pretty well laid out, links to click on. Here's the kind of information you have to upload, so forth. Staff have been reviewing all of our policies, some that hadn't had a signature on since like 2002 or something. So there'd be HR policies, office policies. Yes.
I guess now we're adding a policy on audits, so that'd be good.
Yep. So the timing is good. And so Roberto has kindly agreed to be chair of that ad hoc committee. I don't think there are going to be many meetings. It's more of kind of review of the progress and make sure that we're keeping on track. Also from the board, Sherry Jordan will be on that committee. And then from the foundation, Phyllis Newbill, who's she's not, I don't know what you call her. She's staff, she's PhD, but she's like split between Virginia Tech and Science Museum of Western Virginia in an interesting way. And then Jennifer Thomas, the former president of Virginia Association of Museums from the Foundation Board, she'll be on that committee.
Is this the ad hoc committee on the museum without walls overall or on the policy review?
No, this is AM reaccreditation.
Accreditation, so the whole accreditation
Mhm.
thing, okay. Sorry, I had the right thought, wrong topic. That's good.
Yeah, otherwise, everything's gonna be going well. You're gonna be hearing great stories out of research and collections. Christy has been seeing that we're not back up to pre-pandemic levels with schools visiting. Where we're at is everything else has either gotten back to where it was or it's gotten, swell. The numbers have risen. But we are still slowly seeing a trend towards return of the schools.
Is that with all schools or state-owned schools or just all school, total schools?
No, private schools and homeschools are there as, hey, Gordon, I told you to be here just a few minutes.
Who's driving a BMW?
White,
UNC 6320, your alarm's going off the car.
Hey, why don't we take 5 and let Ford get caught up?
Okay.
The lights were flashing, I
Why
thought
don't
the
you-
lights flashed, but then I got out and I
Finish
started
your
walking, I
thoughts.
heard. I heard.
Why did you finish your thought? You were
What was I saying?
attendance, you were saying.
Private schools and homeschools, for instance, are back to where they were.
So public school.
Yeah, public schools are slow.
I think I tried things much.
Nope.
I don't think I tried, in general, not
They're
just.
so far behind in.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Teaching.
I really think there's just a giant pause.
But we did this.
That's not the museum's fault.
No, I'm absolutely not.
Yeah,
No, and we did just have the Martinsville City Public Schools were just here in force.
that's
Right, so the museum was extremely busy with them.
On the
So
numbers I've seen, the distance learning stuff is more than making up for lack of in-person attendance. It's just shifting how they're getting.
Yeah.
The museums.
Yeah.
Information base.
without doubt.
You think Animal City School will still have a virtual academy? So that's 1,000 students that are not in.
And
school
they're,
right
yeah,
now.
they're just offering it every year now, most school systems.
But if they're in minutes, my daughter teaches high school in Chesterfield, and she said the SOLs are just, because ultimately the SOLs this year are just horrific. Kids are just,
Well, they'll never make it
so
up.
much. No,
There's
Oh, water, please.
do I have water? You got the last one?
All right, I didn't want
No, I'm
to
good.
take water.
If you don't mind room temperature, I can get you.
I'm just gonna drink the half and half.
Oh, no, wait, I need that. It's the only thing you can't touch.
Oh, I found another one.
So you found the hike into the door then.
Those are ginger ales.
Thank you. You are given a finance report?
Sure, let me pull my tablet out. I gotta find my notes from. Let's talk, let me see here.
You're getting people on the screen. Sorry, but I didn't turn my back to you. Don't want to turn my back to you guys.
Yeah, really what we just need to do is kind of review the numbers up to the end of the third quarter. And then we have the new budget for 2024, which is almost identical in many respects to last, I should say this current fiscal year. So the only thing is that we project more revenues because we think we undershot last year. We weren't expecting the success. We were expecting success, not the level of success.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about a whole bunch of federal funds not coming in when they default in a week, you know?
Well, Hayden,
Hey, yeah, I guess.
yeah, he gets, if I remember right, he isn't owed anything by DOD right now, but he has a flow of money from the Smithsonian. So that's federal.
I worked for a government contractor when this happened, when Obama was in office.
Yeah.
It was Friday, I was out of town, they got me a call, they're like, we need you to send an email for everybody in the company telling them that they can't work on anything after midnight. But that if something happens before midnight, then they can keep working. Man, that sounds good. And it's just day by day.
Oh, by the way, we're not paying you either.
That's the thing, because they're saying if you incur any costs
Yeah.
after that period,
Yeah.
you want to pay.
Mhm.
They eventually made everybody whole, but you don't want to put yourself in the hook for it.
They were supposed to have had a good day today in the negotiations, but I heard just driving over there that it didn't go well. So, I'm not even sorry.
It's not the midnight hour quite.
No, I don't think so.
No one wants to be the first to blame.
Is there any spreadsheet? I'm looking at the 24 budget. Is there any paper that has the 23 and the 24, like side by side, or?
Not side by side, but you do have the 23, which does have the budget on it. So that's Jonathan's normal quarterly report. And then you have a second one that says budget FY 24.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at. No, I'm just thinking it'd be a little easier if you could, what the deltas were, in other words, like what's changed, because I know we got a lot of good things that happened this year. But I'm assuming we're not expecting those to happen again as a matter of.
It doesn't look like they're very different at all, Roberta. They're pretty similar.
Cool, okay.
Few percentage points, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the revenues really are what are different because we really overshot some revenues this year. So we took that into account with budgeting for next year. And the second thing is we're anticipating the movement of money from the foundation to the museum, which shows up as a revenue. So that would involve mainly the pavilion and CHML.
Yep, okay. Yeah, that just makes the story easier tomorrow since there's no real big deltas.
No.
All right, or did we move on or not yet?
We were kind of talking informally about budget.
So on the executive report, you missed the taxidermy management and budget request. Do you want to talk about those two things?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Hang on, let me get the notes.
Even just a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, Lisa, give me a second.
It's all good. All good.
Okay, so I'll start with the budget request because we already talked about that. That's the Young Explorer Center. So we'll be
So it'll be part of our letter.
yes.
Important, need it. Please give it to us, et cetera, et cetera.
So we do have a full research and collections committee report on the taxidermy management. And as such, we've done a full inventory of all of our taxidermy
That's great progress, including the stuff over at the
at
satellite.
Douglas Avenue. Yes,
That's
and
good progress.
not only that, but we've gone through it. Nancy went through it first. There are a few items over at Douglas Avenue that need to be cleaned. And I'll get to that in a second, but that she wants to retain. And there may be a few other pieces that education exhibits, et cetera, wants to retain. We also reorganized, that was a lot of fun, actually. We reorganized the taxidermy collection across the way.
There, down there,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so, and that puts us in good stead when stuff is ready to be moved from Douglas Avenue over, we can easily incorporate it down there. And believe it or not, in doing so, we actually freed up more space for not only CHML, but for the archaeology soil lab.
Wow.
Right, yeah, oh, yeah, no, it
That's a
was
good
great.
story.
No, it's a very good story. So the other side over there, what we say in the museum world is the more space you have, the less efficiently you use it. And I think we're getting to a point where we can't do that because 10 years ago, it was just spread everything out everywhere. So we're not constricting anyone, but we just move with a little bit of efficiency.
They're not new stuff, some new old stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And as such, though, the remainder of it, we have right out of the collections policy, a prioritization list of, oh gosh, I'm missing one step in there. It's either you donate it, there's another option for it, or destroy it. Yeah. Right, but that all has to be signed off because they're accession specimens. That has to be signed off by the boards of de-accession, which is no problem. And then we can determine what we want to do with the ones that are just, and they have been this way for decades. They're just tired, or they were never very good quality. They were things that we accepted because you would end up accepting full
Right.
collections,
Right.
things that we would never do. So on top of that, we also submitted to research and collections a budget, right? And it's not huge, but there are things, you got to bomb a space, you have to do a procedure for each one, almost like kind of combing it out, but you're using a chemical to kill the mold stuff. All that's got to get done anyway, because we want to use that space again. So,
Well, and the ones you bring here, you need to make sure they're
Yes.
mold and light and
Decontaminated.
everything free.
Yep.
Okay, well, good.
so they'll get demolded essentially over there and then run through the bubble here and then incorporated into the main population across.
Good, good. And that way you won't be donating or whatever we do with the excess one, something that's nasty or gonna mess somebody else
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think that was everything. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Thanks for these great notes that was taken for me. No, we had a good group on our meeting. We had a virtual meeting April the 17th. And I thought some of the really neat thing is on there, the biggest thing was that we're showing record attendance on everything. And that was before the Reptile Festival that was here in April. So I mean, that was really cool. I think the Reptile Festival was a week or so after our meeting, so that wasn't even included in the numbers. Obviously, our utilities increased somewhat, but that was the new roof over on Douglas Avenue. So that was the big thing there. And then I'm not for sure. I couldn't remember what the initial report, but I know that Ryan talked about we got several private and federal grants for CHML, which was almost $600,000. So that was huge. And I know some of that was going National Science Foundation supporting the Wyoming dig and so forth like that. But right now, everything is looking really strong. Our exhibit rental right now is currently at 0. With the most recent rental ending in 2022 in the fall. So other than that, I mean, everything else is showing strong growth. Revenues up, memberships up, everything is looking really good.
Does it matter that our exhibit rental is 0? I mean,
We knew we were in between exhibit managers, so that was just not a priority. So, that was a relatively new program, and maybe the most that we get in a given year might be $10,000 or $20,000, which we still want, right? But we're going to start to ramp that back up.
And I would think too, you hate to keep bringing up the word COVID, but I think over the last couple of years, people didn't want other stuff coming in, so that was part of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the people also, the institutions just didn't have the audiences.
Yeah.
I think our last one was at the movie theater in Danville. Did we do something for the Jurassic Park
We did-
maybe
we
2 years
did.
ago or something?
We did, yeah, but I think we had a rental at North Carolina, maybe the museum, the Cape Fear Museum. I think we had our dinosaur moves over there, something like that.
And then I'll finish it, two things real quick. The endowment right now is obviously it's near $1 million and I know Ryan let us know it's got a 10% average annual growth since fiscal year 16. So it's growing every year, pretty double digits, which is really nice.
Because of the way we're investing it or growth, because people are giving.
Both.
But
We got two new major gifts. When I say major, we got like $1,500,000. So we got a couple of state gifts in the relatively recent past, and our investment firm Stifel has done well on this.
And then the last one I'll mention, just because everybody's been talking about it, the Wi-Fi upgrade is completed. That was a biggie too. So the all new hardware, software, security, the whole 9 yards. So that was a good one there. So Art will be happy.
We just did an employee satisfaction survey of our 17,000 employees at Dominion. And one item that came up repeatedly was employees having to step outside of buildings, and go to a very specific part of the facility they were at to get their phone to work.
Yeah.
Such a simple thing. So we went and fixed it at all our buildings, which was a lot of money because we have a zillion
Yeah,
buildings,
yeah.
but it's a small thing that matters. That really matters to people. Mhm. Anybody have any questions for Ford about the budget,
You will need to
financials?
vote on the new budget tomorrow.
Are you gonna present the new budget?
Or
Who's presenting the new, or you're presenting the new budget tomorrow?
great. Okay, I got it right
Your
here.
name's decided.
All right.
Just a curiosity question.
Yeah,
I saw in the verbiage that we lost the catalytic converter out of the truck, right? And that wasn't covered by insurance. We had to pay for that out of pocket?
yeah, we had to pay for that.
Wow.
So we did get it replaced, and believe they painted it with fluorescent yellow heat paint, which is supposed to deter. And to be honest with you, I mean, it was just one of those things where when they told me, I was like, no problem, we got that on camera, because we have about 8,000 cameras in it. No, it was parked in the one place where the cameras don't see. So we,
So now it's in front of a camera.
no, because it was parked in the church parking lot, right? It was convenient because.
No, I mean now going forward, is it?
Oh,
somewhere?
all state vehicles get parked where there is visibility. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Insurance didn't cover it because why? Did we didn't turn things, we didn't want to affect our rates or?
No.
It didn't cover ours either. We had 3 or 4 ripped.
Yeah.
Like solves all kind of deal. I
Yeah,
don't,
this was obviously, it had to be like a battery powered circular saw.
there's, I can't remember what it was, but there is some,
Yeah,
they weasel out in some way.
Yeah, Tim told me why, because at first I was like, well, no problem, just, did you turn the video into the cops? They'll probably get them. Like, there's no video. Well, what about insurance? And then he said, well, and I was like, geez.
I know with insurance, you gotta have a police report, but without a video, the police won't be enough to gain, but
So maybe it's because you didn't have a police report.
could be.
Yeah, maybe so.
Right.
I don't know, but it wasn't the end of the world, it was sad, but.
Any other questions for Ford? All right. I think that's all takes us to old business. I think your review is at the next meeting, right,
Yes,
Joe? So we get a draft performance right up this summer.
yes. So this is gonna be the 360 review. So you will get my
Which is new, is something
Yes.
she asked for.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and so you'll get my input, and then you will get input from everyone on leadership team that has a supervisory role,
Mhm.
plus a write-up from the senior curator, that's Nancy. So they will all provide stuff not blindly, but they will provide stuff to HR, which will then provide it to you blindly.
right, so we won't know, which is
Right.
good.
Yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then if I remember right in the flow chart, that I will not actually see the verbiage, so I can't like, be like, that sounds like the way Christie writes. you know, Right, so just to follow best practices and whatnot, so,
Good.
yeah, so, then it's up to you.
Can you remind us or remind me so I can manage it of the flow charts? We make sure we follow the steps and get it right and have it ready for the next meeting.
Yeah, you want me to do that now?
It can be outside the meeting. I just need to know.
Yeah,
Doesn't have to be right now.
I've got a PDF.
Yeah, that way I can just watch people through it.
Yeah.
I think we do that at executive committee and then we go into closed session at the next meeting and do it.
And you do a closed
Yeah,
session in the
exactly. Okay.
executive.
Will you just remind me to make sure I do it right?
Yep.
That'd be great. Thank you. I don't think there's a need for a closed session that I'm aware of. Does anybody have anything personnel wise we need to talk about in closed session? So did you have something in mind when you put
I-
closed session on the agenda?
I do not. I think since I borrowed this from the last executive committee, I just left it in and added the caveat, so.
Does anybody have anything that they'd like to announce or talk about other than something we've already talked about?
Joe, I don't know if you already mentioned this to Lisa, but I'll be leaving at like 11 tomorrow, so.
Yes,
If we need me for the action stuff.
We do.
Okay.
we do. So John and I talked about it. We think all of the voting items are gonna come up before you have to leave.
Okay.
But if we are running long on something, we're gonna cut some things off and go straight to things we have to vote on because you are our forum.
Okay, wonderful. No pressure.
Okay.
We're looking okay for quorum?
Pardon?
You mentioned quorum. We're looking okay for quorum?
We're right on the number.
Right on the number until Nate leaves. And then once he leaves, we don't have a quorum, which is why we're gonna do the voting things first.
So speaking of that, I think one of the things that had come up, at least in our committee meetings, is attendance.
Yeah.
And how do we deal with that? I mean, everybody's got busy lives and everybody's got other things to do, right? But how do we deal with that? When we meet together as a board, I think it's gotta be some sort of a reminder that you're not gonna be able to do it, let us know. But we can never have a meeting and get anything accomplished.
Is this been made harder since, did the rules for remote attendance change, even though the rules for quorum didn't?
What it means is that the changes mean that it's perfectly fine that we have electronic participation and that they can vote, right? That was one of the changes. And also it makes it easier for someone like Roberto, less so for Jennifer, 60 miles. If you live 60 miles away, you cannot attend and attend online and you're good, you don't get penalized.
But do you count for the quorum?
No,
No.
That's
No.
what I'm saying is
Even
now
if you're over 60 miles.
it's easier to not show up to the meeting and we still have to get the in-person quorum, which is
Yes.
harder to get. Yeah. So in a way, it's harder than when I first came on the board to get an actual quorum.
and then next month, the plan is to have, as is appropriate to the rules, you're gonna have a fully online meeting, but it's not gonna be one of those things where like all of you come and gather here, and then we get joined online by
Just everybody's remote.
11 yeah, so everybody has to be remote,
Yeah.
And then everybody counts as a forum because you're all remote, right?
yes.
So I mean, the only thing I can think is to bring it up. I mean, honestly, I think people should, unless they have an excuse, should be here.
Good luck.
Yeah,
I mean,
Bob Benzig's been talking about this for years.
yeah, I know.
It's
It's frustrating.
We could start recruiting based on proximity. Check the local neighborhood.
So we go back to the way it was when I first got here. That was when you had 25 trustees and maybe 20, 21 were Martinsville, Henry County people.
so is that better? Would you be better served by a more localish board where people attended better, or are you better with the state board where people don't attend?
There was nothing wrong with the composition of the board before, but I think we have a greater diversity of perspectives and skill sets and experiences with the broadening out of the board of trustees. My preference now, of course, it's been years now, but my preference is to keep it that way. I understand the challenge of getting people in, especially for a quorum. but so be it.
We have some chronic
Yes,
non-attendees.
you know, and
And
I,
what can we do about chronic?
I will say it's not unique to this board. It's
No.
every board I'm on.
No, so
you have,
there are specific rules, right?
yes,
Yeah.
so you have, you can take steps to rectify that. But that's between you guys and that board member. I can't certainly that. I can give you the policy.
Are we allowed to change the bylaws to what constitutes quorum, or is that mandated by the state?
I have to ask.
I don't think so.
No, yeah.
I think it's by the state,
Yeah.
because that's come up before too. I mean, Christy and I used to have education meetings where it was just Christy and I.
Yeah.
People wouldn't show up.
Yeah, it's pretty normal that the quorum requirements are gonna be set by the state. I mean, like they are for corporations and stuff. I mean, you can't go below a certain amount. There's a threshold regardless, so.
Happy to call and have conversations with chronic non-attendees. I guess we can have the conversation if you need to participate or leave.
Have we, I seem to recall at least one time when we thought we were gonna have a meeting and then it turned out
Yes.
we weren't.
Yeah.
Is that the only case in the last few years?
Recently, yeah, I don't remember another time that there may be, we'd have to comb back through the minutes, but there may have been times where we knew going into it we're gonna have a
Yeah.
forum, you know, from the very beginning.
The people I'll be speaking to about attendance tomorrow will be the people in attendance, not the people that need to be in
That's true.
attendance.
Like the classic
Yeah.
mistake that
Yeah.
leadership makes is addressing the non-problematic people.
I don't know.
Was, is a,
Want me to make some calls? I'm happy to make some calls. Each person.
is a potential first step, literally having a document at every meeting, an attendance roster that literally just throws it on the table and I mean, I don't know how much
Part of
browbeating might affect the attendance,
I have
but
been
The
on
non-
boards
the
that
non-
shows like, well, it shows like a grid, like who's attended the previous meetings. I don't know if they're passing effect.
Tom put something together like that when he was chair and then when I came on, and it was really difficult last year because everyone was starting to come out of COVID, and I would just send emails and just say, we got to get the business, we got to get the business in the museum done. And if you don't come, we're not doing our duty. So I sent out a lot of emails, I think, like, get here, like, be there. Like, we've got important stuff that we've got to do.
And I
And I don't know any other way to do it.
maybe a form letter of some kind that's kind of harshly worded maybe or something
I
that
think a personal phone.
just kind of sent out or something. But
I agree.
There's a policy, I think, if they miss so many in a row, right, Joe?
Yeah, there is a
they-
policy, but I can't remember what it is. I
Send me
guess.
the policy.
so many within, and there's also so many within a certain period of time.
Yes,
Not even in a row, it's just so many at a time.
I can't remember, is quorum an absolute number or is it a percentage? What I'm wondering
Oh,
is
it's
if you shrink the board, does it make it easier to get a quorum?
Yeah. I think so.
That's also counterproductive.
yeah.
I think it is productive to have board members that participate. I think it's counterproductive to have board members that do not participate. So I think it's okay if we lose a few in my opinion, it's okay if we lose a few non-productive board members. They can get replaced with
Few more that
potentially
show up, that's
productive
right.
board members. I don't have a problem with that at
Yeah.
all. I think you can't do it without a conversation.
No, of course.
Yeah.
So, I'm happy to make some calls, but.
Why don't we at
I
least
mean,
see
if
what
you're
happens tomorrow and then maybe
to
we can get you a
participate.
report.
Yeah, well, you know, the people that are here.
No, and doing a report on who's absent, that doesn't help with the
Yeah.
people that are absent.
I just mean it's something
Yeah.
that'll help guide you.
Yeah,
And-
completely. No, I need the data. I don't want to call
Yeah.
somebody who hasn't been chronically absent.
Yeah.
But I think the data and the policy and then some phone numbers.
Yeah, because I think Jennifer's correct. It's so many in a row.
Yeah.
I think it's automatic if you miss so many in a row. But then there's also so many within a time period if you miss. But then again, the one lady that came and spoke with us, that's one of the lawyers, she said that there are certain guidelines that they can get reasons they can give you and then it doesn't count.
Right.
So then, but if you get that same person or two people that are giving you the same reasons,
Right.
then it doesn't count. We're still stuck with, and I know Tom, Jennifer, Barry, when he was still alive, he even asked people, listen, we need more people to come to the meetings, especially the big one, but we had people that wasn't coming to the committee meetings. They wasn't coming to anything.
Is there always a wait, I don't know if you know the answer to this, Joe, is there always a waiting list at the governor's office of folks
Yes.
that can be put on the board if others rotate off?
My understanding would be yes.
okay.
Yeah, I know it was 5 years between the time I first put something
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I was a year, I think,
Yeah.
and I'd put in for something totally different, and they called me and it's like, we'd like to do this.
I guess the other question is, do they do it on a rolling basis, or is it like every 6 months they go in and try to slide people in? I guess I'm just a little bit curious about the process, because you'd like to think long-term, the solution isn't just maybe having folks who don't attend roll off, but getting new ones on that would be likely to attend it.
I assume it would be fairly orderly getting new people if you.
I don't know if did you recall us ever having to do one that doesn't just normally roll off? Maybe there's been resignations, but there has to be some communication with the governor's office. I
Yeah,
assume.
I normally call the office of appointments and just give them a heads up that this has gone on like Barry dies, right?
Right.
And so I make sure to report that.
So how long is it typically?
I was gonna say, yeah, it's
It's a time.
yeah, it's never high speed. I
Like
don't
a
know,
month or a year?
not more than a month, less than a year. So several months, you know, and I don't know why, you know, because I'll start pinging them. But it just has to do when the governor is interested in reviewing
Right,
appointments.
right.
And I don't know how true it is, but I was told by previous board members, no longer on the board, that they go through like, try to find out how you voted, what's your
Oh, yeah.
political affiliation, and if you're a Democrat and it's a Republican governor, you're probably not getting appointed to nothing
Nothing.
during that time.
Well, you know, that makes a really good point. I don't know if they just changed it, but I know in a previous administration, every Friday I would get an email summarizing all the appointments, and I haven't seen those the last couple of years. Maybe
I haven't either.
Yeah.
I mentioned, you know, so.
So they were doing
Because they're
it.
focused on the paying appointments first. Probably.
So if we have one person drop out tomorrow, we don't have quorum.
Correct,
One person that you're expecting to be here.
right,
Right.
right. Okay,
It almost like, who really expects it? And I can tell you.
We started at 10:15.
It's like, we need to start making calls right now and saying, please.
Well, so just.
it might be a good idea to send out a reminder that we'll be that we're potentially without a
Yeah.
quorum tomorrow,
Okay.
people could.
That might be one for them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, but I'll make some calls between this meeting and then from the next meeting, and I actually should do it next week, so that there's a chance then we'd have people for the fall meeting. So I'll make some calls next week.
Just trying.
I don't mind being having, I mean, if you're gonna do something like this, you need to show up and represent. I don't believe in being on a board for a resume, that's ridiculous.
What's weird is like, most of the people that are on the board don't need it on their resume.
Exactly.
It's like, come on now.
I'm looking at the charter now, but I can't find it. It's buried somewhere. so.
About
About-
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Joe said he sent it to me, so I can make sure I have it when I call people, and the data, I need the data on. attendance.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Any other items we should talk about? All right, Roberto, we will miss you, but again, welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
We won't miss you very much because you'll be at a bunch of other stuff, right? So you'll be around,
Yeah, just spreading the wealth a little bit here.
yeah.
Time sharing.
Okay. All right, Joe, what is the plan for dinner?
We have plenty of food downstairs in the lecture hall. We have a variety of beverages. City Hall was invited. I got 1 negative RSVP and 4 black holes, right? There's complete radio silence. So,
If somebody from City Hall does show up, are you gonna introduce us to them since we wish
Yes.
to know them?
oh yeah, you'll recognize there's somebody new over. So.
So the Uber delivery for me and Jennifer is coming in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, where do you think Mary Zell is right now?
I got your drink.
So, yeah, so
Anything else?
I think so.
All right, thank you, everybody.
See y'all tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
You are welcome to make yourself at home in here. You can make yourself at home in the lecture hall. I'm sorry, the other conference room across the hall. You can go down to the lecture hall, you can wander the galleries, whatever you feel like doing. We're gonna have everything set up